All right, so in the last lesson, we have set up all of our starting files for our very simple website. And the next step is to set up account creation for users to allow them to register and log in so that they can finally view our secrets page of our website. And in order to do this, we're going to be using level 1 security, so the lowest level possible of security for our website. And this is simply just going to be creating an account for the user, storing their email and password in our database so that when they come back at a later date, we can check their email against their password and see if we should let them pass or not. So in order to create a user account and store these pieces of data, then we're going to have to create a user database. So we're going to do that using our good old friend Mongoose and MongoDB. So let's go ahead and stop our server and use npm to install Mongoose. And as always, we're going to need to require it. So mongoose equals require mongoose. So now that we've required Mongoose, it's time to put it into action, and we're going to use it to connect to our MongoDB. So to do that, we say mongoose.connect, and then we specify the URL where our MongoDB database is located, which, as always, is going to be our local host. So we're going to specify MongoDB : 2/ localhost : 27017, which is the default port for MongoDB. And then we're going to have a / and the name of our database, which we're going to call userdb. And finally, we're just going to add in that flag, which is called use new URL parser. And this will remove that little warning that we get in the console. So that's all we need to connect to our MongoDB. So let's try and run our app with NodeMon. NodeMon app.js in the secrets folder, and we get an error, and it tells us that there's a Mongo network error and it failed to connect to the server. Well, the reason is because we haven't started up our MongoDB server yet. So if we want to do that, we have to type the mongod command. And now we're listening on 27017. So if we Control-C and rerun our command, then it should now be all good and we no longer have this problem. So everything's all looking great. Our server started on port 3000. Now all we have to do is set up our new user database. And to do that, we're going to create a schema first. So we're going to create a user schema. And our user schema is going to be a very simple JavaScript object that only has 2 fields. So it's going to have an email, which is going to be a string, and it's also going to have a password, which is also going to be a string. And now we can use our user schema to set up a new user model. So it's going to be a new mongoose.model. And then we have to specify the name of our collection, which is also going to be user in the singular form with a capital U. And it's going to be created using that user schema that we made just there. So now we can start creating users and adding it to this user DB. So the point at which we want to create our users is, of course, when the user goes to the register page and they've typed in their email and their password and they've decided to hit the submit button, then this form makes a post request to our register route. So in order to catch that, we're going to create our register route right here. So we're going to write app.post and we're going to target the register route. And then we can add in our callback with our rec and res. And then inside the callback is where we're going to create our brand new user. So we're going to create the user using the information that they passed over from here. So you can see that these 2 inputs, one has a type of email and the other one has a type of password. But the most important thing to grab that data from the body of the post request is to know their names. So one is called username and one is called password. So let's go ahead and create our brand new user. We'll call them a new user. And this is going to be created using that user model here. So new user, open up a set of parentheses and then some curly braces, and we're going to specify the values for the two fields. So one is called email and the other one is called password. And let's just check to make sure that we've got it right, email and password. And the email is going to be set to request.body.username, so catching whatever it is that they typed into this input. And then we're going to set the password to request.body.password, which will be equal to whatever they typed in over here. So now we're ready to go ahead and save this new user. So we're going to say new user dot save, not saver, but save. And then we're going to add a callback into the save function to check to see that during the save process, if there were any errors. And if there were some errors, then we're going to log those errors. But if there weren't any errors, then we're going to res.render the secrets page. So this is really important. At the moment on our website, we're able to handle GET requests to the root route, the login route, and the register route. But notice that there isn't a app.get for the /secret route, because we don't want to render that unless the user is registered or logged in. So we're only rendering the secrets page from the register and login routes for now. So now that we've set up our website, if the user has been successfully created in our database, then they should be able to see the secrets page. And this is currently the only way that they can view the secrets page. So let's go ahead and save our code and check it out. So our server is still running on port 3000. And if we go over to our localhost 3000, then you can see we've got our home page, and we haven't set up the login screen yet. So let's go over to register. And let's go ahead and create an email. Now at this stage, it doesn't really matter what your email address is. You can call it 1@2.com if you wish. The only things that that email checks in terms of validation is that there's an @ in there and there's a .something that comes afterwards. So I'm just going to use 1@2.com or test@email.com just to test it for now. And then we're going to add a password, and I'm just going to put 123. We also don't have any validation there, so it doesn't really matter how many digits I put in there. And this is really good for testing right now. Otherwise, you're going to be entering a 12-digit password every time you test your forms, which is not what we want. So now let's go ahead and click register. And you can see it now renders the secret page, and it's showing my deepest, darkest secrets, which is not much of a secret over here. So this page is only accessible once you have registered. And we can verify this by going over to our Robo3 team and connecting to our MongoDB on our local host. And you can see, check it out, we've got our user DB over here. And in our collections, there's a collection of users, which only has one document at the moment, which has an email of 1@2.com with a password of 123. So at the moment, the user can register, but they can't log in because we haven't created a app.post for our login route. So when they go onto the login page, they enter their email and their password that they remembered from previously when they created the account, and then it makes a post request to the login route. So let's go ahead and handle that right now. So underneath the app.post for register, we're going to create an app.post for the /login route. And here is where we're going to try and check in our database to see if we actually have a user with the credentials that they put in. So those credentials are going to be a username, which is going to be the request.body.username, and also a password, which is in request.body.password. So now we have these two things that the user entered, and we have to check them against our database. So we're going to look through our database and see that for the username with this value, if their password is equal to the one that the user typed in. So to do this, we're going to say user, so look through our collection of users, and we're going to find one where the email field is matching with our username field. So remember, the username field comes from the user who's trying to log in, and the email field is the one in our database that's got the saved data. And then we're going to have a callback with an error and potentially a found user. And we can check to see if there were any errors, firstly. Then we're going to handle that error. We're going to log it. But if there weren't any errors, then we're going to check to see if there was a found user. So does that user with that email exist? And if there was a user on our database with that email, then we should check to see if that user that we found has a password which matches the password that the user typed in on the login page. So if the found user.password is equal to the password created here. And if that is the case, then that means not only do we have a user with that email, so the user exists and they registered before, but also the password they typed in the form is equal to the one in our database, which means that they are the correct user. They've successfully logged in and our server has successfully authenticated them. So in this case, we should also res.render the page they were trying to access, which is the one called secrets. So now let's close everything off, and we should, if we save our app.js, check that our server is still running, and then go ahead and go back to our home page. Let's go ahead and try and log in with the email and password that I registered previously, which was 1at2.com and 123. So let's try 1at2.com and 123. Let's hit login, and it's now revealed the secret page. So success, right? Now there's just one problem. If we look at our users collection and we look at the documents in there, there's only one at the moment, but we can see the user's password in plain text. And this is really, really bad, because if I had millions of users, say I was, I don't know, Amazon or Facebook or Google, and I had all of my users' passwords saved in plain text like this, then any one of my employees can look through my database and know what everybody's password is. So that means if I had an employee who wanted to know what was, I don't know, Britney Spears' password on Facebook, then they could just look at it and they could use it to log in, right? But also it means that if a hacker decided to hack into my server and locate my database, then this is a pretty big loot for them if everybody's password was stored in plain text. And most people will reuse their passwords. And if you use the same password on lots of websites, then once the hacker knows your email and password for one site, then they can pretty much log in as you across all of the websites, including things such as your bank account or PayPal, which is definitely not what you want. So firstly, don't reuse passwords. Try and make different passwords, especially for the accounts which are tied to a payment portal. But the second thing is, if you're going to make a website, don't store your users' passwords in plain text like this. It's really, really bad. So now that we've seen what level 1 authentication looks like, it's time to level up and do right by our users and increase the security of our website. So for all of that and more, I'll see you on the next lesson.